Walt Disney Imagineering are responsible for designing new ideas for the company's parks and attractions. One of the main skills required for a Disney Imagineer is to think outside of the box. Unfortunately, those big ideas sometimes go beyond what's actually possible. Other times, a great idea simply just doesn't make the cut. There are countless number of sketches that never became reality, but here are just 10 of the most intriguing Disney attraction ideas that were never finished. Number 10. The Enchanted Snow Palace. Frozen hit theaters in 2013, and it quickly rose to be one of the most popular Disney animated films of all time. However, interest in adapting the original Hans Christian Andersen story, The Snow Queen, was around Disney for years before they finally decided to turn it into a movie. Mark Davis was one of the original designers and animators at Disney. He was responsible for designing Tinkerbell, Cruella de Vil, Maleficent, Aurora, and so many more characters. When Disneyland was created, he was the mastermind behind It's a Small World, Haunted Mansion, and Pirates of the Caribbean. In 1978, Davis designed the Enchanted Snow Palace, which was a snow castle built into the edge of a glacier. He thought that visitors to the hot California park would appreciate a cold, air-conditioned ride. The ride was supposed to take guests around in a boat visiting the Snow Queen and all of her creations, including polar bears, snow giants, and her icy throne room. The ride idea was rejected because they were trying to put in more roller coasters and thrilling attractions instead of slow-moving, peaceful rides. Davis was so discouraged by the rejection of his beautiful ideas that he decided it was time to retire from Disney. Mark Davis unfortunately died in 2000, and he never got to see Disney's version of the Snow Queen coming to life when Frozen was released. In his original sketch of the Snow Queen, she is blonde and her hair is braided. She is wearing a blue dress that appears to be made out of snow and ice. It's clear that they took his original sketches as inspiration for Elsa. The Frozen Ever After ride opened in 2016, and it was very similar to Mark Davis's original idea. Disney park guests get to peacefully float in a boat through Elsa's ice castle. Number 9. The Great Muppet Movie Ride. In 1989, Jim Henson met with Disney Imagineers and came up with multiple concepts for a Muppet theme park. Disney promised to give Henson a huge amount of creative control, and the Imagineering team really enjoyed collaborating with him. Disney was so serious about this that they even showed a commercial announcing their intentions with concept sketches.
And the Muppet Studios, with a Muppet Vision 3D movie and the Muppets Movie Ride.
It'll be a backstage ride of explaining how movies are shot. And it's almost, but all the information is wrong.
There's plenty planned to keep Walt Disney World guests busy well into the next century. We'll keep you updated on the progress of all these projects on future Dateline Disneys.
During the planning process, Jim Henson met with his lawyers and expressed his frustrations because nearly every idea he pitched to Disney met some sort of criticism or roadblock. He felt as though he wasn't getting the creative control that he was promised. In 1990, Jim Henson suddenly died at only 53 years old. Rumours were floating around that he was supposed to sell the Muppets to Disney for $200 million, but he passed away before the deal ever happened. In 2004, Disney bought the Muppets from Henson's family for less than half the rumoured price. They paid $78 million, released several new movies, and began profiting from merchandise sales in their parks. Number 8. Tomorrowland 2055. Since Disneyland opened in 1955, the Tomorrowland park quickly became outdated by the 1990s. In 1998, Disney recruited Star Wars creator George Lucas to help them design a new Tomorrowland that would be a sci-fi version of the future, rather than trying to predict what might actually happen. Tomorrowland 2055 would have featured animatronic alien bands, a tour of the galaxy, and a 360-degree movie experience directed by Lucas called From Time to Time. There were even invisible acrylic walkways where people felt as if they were walking on air. While the designs for Tomorrowland 2055 were impressive, the Imagineering team estimated that it would take over 2 years to complete, and it was far too expensive. The only extraterrestrial attraction that came to life in Tomorrowland was Alien Encounter, and it was actually placed in the Magic Kingdom Park at Walt Disney World. While a lot of people loved that ride, it was considered to be too scary for kids, and it was eventually removed from the park. Number 7. Disney's America. In 1992, Disney planned to build a third park inside the United States that was totally themed around US history and patriotism. It was supposed to be built on 3,000 acres in Manassas, Virginia. The idea was that tourists who were already on their way to Washington, D.C.'s historic landmarks could stop by Disney's America while they were on vacation. Each section of the park would bring guests through a timeline of the history of the United States. The entrance to the park was a Civil War era town where guests could board an antique train. The train would drop guests off at a Native American village, a Civil War fort, and a replica of what immigration was like on Ellis Island in the early 1900s. There was even a section that would show guests what life was like as a slave trying to escape on the Underground Railroad. However, historians and archaeologists took issues with the accuracy of some of the ideas that Disney was proposing, and they also saw it as a total exploitation of some tragic historical events. Disney was also planning to build on top of a piece of land that was an actual Civil War landmark. The local government in Virginia didn't allow Disney to go through with this idea, and the project was scrapped. Number 6. National Harbor. Even though the plans for Disney's America fell through in the 1990s, the corporation still had their eyes on the Metro DC area. In 2009, Disney purchased 15 acres of land in Prince George County, Maryland, with the plan to build a 500-room waterfront resort on National Harbor.
Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?
That question from an old Disney classic has a new answer this morning, and it's Prince George's County.
Mickey and Company are coming to our area. The Walt Disney Company is drawing up the blueprints for a new resort hotel at National Harbor.
And so Washington now has Disney. They just are the best.
Well, a House of Mouse is coming to the Washington area.
Mickey Mouse and his friends may be heading north to the Potomac River. The Magic Kingdom will expand to our backyard. Disney spent $11 million to buy land at the National Harbor site to build a resort, minus the theme park. As Courtney Robinson reports, there is hope that Mickey and friends might bring jobs and tourist dollars to our region.
Around the same time, Disney was already building their Aulani Resort in Hawaii. The resort incorporates local culture with character actors from their Hawaiian-themed movies Lilo and Stitch and Moana. Residents of National Harbor continued to wait for the beginning of the Disney Resort's construction until 2011, when it was officially announced that they would no longer build the multi-million-dollar project. Number 5. Discovery Bay. Tony Baxter was a Disney Imagineer who drew up plans for a whole new park called Discovery Bay. The park was inspired by the San Francisco Bay Area during the 1800s, reimagined in a Victorian-era steampunk style along the lines of the stories of Jules Verne and H.G. Wells. Baxter incorporated elements of the live-action Disney film 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea and planned to build a large artificial waterfront. Much of the park was also inspired by a live-action movie Disney premiered in 1974 called The Island at the Top of the World. Some of the attractions were a hot air balloon, a massive glass Victorian greenhouse, a magnetic roller coaster, and an elevator that would blast guests into the air with a water geyser. The Island at the Top of the World movie totally flopped in the box office, so they cancelled the project. Number 4. The SS Disney. Most people know that fans of Disney can take their families on a themed cruise, but at one point in time there were plans to rebuild an aircraft carrier into an out-of-this-world experience called the SS Disney. The idea was to build a full-fledged theme park on the deck of a ship. They even planned out the space for miniaturized versions of Fantasyland, Tomorrowland, and Adventureland with some of the most iconic rides. The boat would travel to different ports around the world and only stay in each location for a limited time. Then it would sail off to the next country. Despite the fact that Imagineers created a model of the SS Disney, the project was never actually started. In hindsight, it was probably way too unrealistic to think that a floating theme park could survive all kinds of sailing conditions while navigating the globe. Number 3. The Dark Kingdom. One of the things that makes Disney movies so great is that the villains are so deliciously devious that they're actually likable. So why has there never been a villain-centric Disneyland attraction? Villain characters walk around taking requests for selfies, giving autographs, and are featured in Disney parades throughout the world. Beyond that, they're never given much of the spotlight. According to the Disney Park history book, 4 Decades of Magic, Disney was seriously considering building a park called Dark Kingdom in the Walt Disney World Resort. Maleficent's castle would have been the centerpiece of the parks, and rides would have been themed around some of the classic baddies like Ursula and Captain Hook. It's reported that the only reason why Disney didn't go through with the plan was because they spent billions of dollars acquiring Marvel around the same time, and a few years later they purchased the rights to Star Wars as well. Maybe someday the Dark Kingdom will have its opportunity, only this time villains like Loki and Darth Vader will be sure to join in the fun. Number 2. Roger Rabbit's Hollywood. In 1991, the Disney MGM Studios theme park, later renamed to Disney's Hollywood Studios, was opened inside Walt Disney World in Florida. Characters that had been acquired by Disney, including Roger Rabbit, would be featured in the park. At one point in time, there were plans to create a section of the park called Roger Rabbit's Hollywood. It would have included Maroon Cartoon Studios, the Acme Warehouse, and the same restaurant from the film Who Framed Roger Rabbit. A few of the ideas for the rides included a roller coaster, dark rides, Baby Herman's Runaway Baby Buggy, and the Toontown Trolley, which would have been an immersive movie experience, kind of similar to Star Tours. However, Disney and Steven Spielberg's company Amblin Entertainment had got into an argument over the legal rights to the Roger Rabbit franchise. Disney decided to go with a much smaller area called Toontown instead. Since some of the proposed park's ideas had already been built, like a collection of cars designed to look like Billy the Cab, they were reused in a ride called Roger Rabbit's Cartoon Spin. And there was also a Jessica Rabbit store on Pleasure Island in Disney World for a short period of time. Number 1. The Soviet Union at Epcot. During the Cold War, the United States wouldn't touch anything that was related to Russia and the Soviet Union. However, in 1990, the New York Times announced that Disney CEO Michael Eisner had revealed that they were negotiating to create a land honoring the Soviet Union inside Epcot.
Today, Epcot Center's World Showcase Lagoon is circled by 11 pavilions representing nations from all corners of the globe. Germany, Norway, Mexico, Morocco, the United Kingdom, Japan, France, Italy, Canada, China, and the United States.
One stroke of this pen brings 2 changes from Congress.
A circle of nations that celebrates both cultural differences and shared human values. Yet the circle is not complete, and the roll call of nations and cultures from around the world has only begun. In the northwest corner of World Showcase lies 5 acres, awaiting the arrival of the newest pavilion for the global village, Russia. Condensing this giant land into a single pavilion is the task of the Walt Disney Imagineers, the creative team of artists, architects, and engineers responsible for the design and construction of the Disney theme parks.
They had sketches of the buildings, including a replica of the colourful and iconic St. Basil's Cathedral. One of the rides that would have been based on the Russian fairy tale By the Pike's Wish was called Ivan and the Magic Pike. The attraction would never come to be, as the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991. Russia's economy got worse and worse in the late 1990s, and there weren't any major Russian corporations willing to sponsor the pavilion. As the years went on and Russia's economy improved, Disney park executives decided that they wanted to revisit the idea of adding Russia to Epcot. However, as we all know, with the most recent political unease between Russia and the United States, the idea, once again, has been pushed off to the side. There are many reasons why an idea will not eventually be turned into a Disney attraction. As we've learned, these reasons include budgetary concerns, political climate, and potential operational issues. But what happens when a Disney attraction is given the green light, is built, and then is a disaster? Find out in the next video as we take a look at a Walt Disney World attraction that was shut down after only 1 month of operation. Click the link right here.